Hi. Okay, well, I think in the interest of time, we can let people in as they arrive. So I will just get going. So yeah, welcome and thank you for joining this evening and spending this next half an hour or so with me. I just wanted to talk a little bit about thriving and not just surviving and my journey. I'm a diet and nutritional advisor and I'm based just outside of Swindon. So kind of what we're going to go through this evening is my story. I love telling it. I'll shout about it to anyone who's prepared to listen. Why I was feeling like I was, and you'll learn that is. And then, you know, just how we can help ourselves, what the key to all of this is, and can it really be done in 21 days? So I'm just going to talk you through that. So to start with, I'm just going to read out my story. It is sort of printed and ready for me to read. Just the reason being is there's some really key points in there and I don't want to miss anything out. So for a few years leading up to the summer of 2020, I genuinely felt like I was wading through treacle. Every single day I was forcing myself from one activity to the next, really just wishing that I could go back to sleep. That was my first thought in the morning, was when can I go back to sleep? And it wasn't for lack of sleep. More often than not, I was sleeping for 8 or 9 hours a night and again in the afternoon, and sometimes that could be for 3 or 4 hours. I was on medication for acid reflux. I was on antidepressants, which were prescribed for menopausal mood swings and brain fog. And I would regularly just be taking painkillers to just get through the day, just to numb those aches and pains and kind of get going sometimes in the morning. And I felt just basically unwell most days. And I don't think I looked that great either. My skin was spotty, my nails were flaky, I had bags under my eyes. I mean, it's a bit dismal, isn't it? And any activity that I was working on, whether that was doing some gardening, housework, or walking the dog, just left my legs and hips really painful and stiff, to the point where it would just kind of take me a minute to get going if I got up out of the chair. And as far as the medication was concerned, I tried to come off the acid reflux ones. I was on omeprazole, which I think is a really common one that is prescribed regularly. And I tried to come off it gradually. My symptoms returned, and I actually talked it all through with my doctor. And what he told me was that my body was now reliant on those drugs and that I would now be on them for the rest of my life. Not to mention I was having regular headaches, stomach aches, sore throats, and I'm 53 and I just accepted all of this as part of aging, and I honestly thought that that was what it was going to be like for the rest of my life. In fact, I just thought it was going to get worse. But I was introduced to a 21-day program, and I must admit I was a bit cynical, you know, can it really be done in 21 days? But I also knew that I needed to make some changes, and I just thought, actually, I can't feel any worse. And I expected to feel a little bit better. I expected even to lose a few pounds, but even to me, my results were amazing. First and foremost, I haven't taken any omeprazole now for 7, coming on 8 months, and nor am I on antidepressants. And for me, this was my biggest win, as I really don't like relying on or taking medication regularly. And then coming in a close second is my sleep, and what a revelation sleeping properly through the night and not having to waste every afternoon on the couch has been. Not only because I actually feel properly awake now, but I've regained about 20 hours a week. It's incredible. That's a part-time job. I've seen a noticeable difference in the way that I move about. My joints and muscles don't seize up like they used to, and I'm more active as a result too. Lots of my menopausal symptoms have diminished or disappeared altogether. My hot flushes are few and far between, and my mood is more stable. Plus my clarity of thought has returned. I can actually add 2 and 2 together now and get the right result, whereas before it would baffle me. And I've also noticed lately that I do have a couple of food intolerances, and even then I can cope with small amounts of these foods now. My general digestion is much improved, and I can't remember the last time I had a headache. So everyone, says how well I'm looking, my skin is a lot clearer, and ladies of a certain age, you'll probably relate to this. I don't actually even get as many hairs on my chin anymore. I know it sounds miraculous, but I don't. And I did also lose a few pounds, but more importantly, my weight is much easier to manage now because everything else is in balance. So people are regularly commenting on the changes, and I now know that it is possible to thrive and not just survive. So I'm just here really to shout about that message, because to me it's pretty amazing. So thank you for listening. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of those things that led to the first part of that story, and whilst what was making me feel so grotty. And some of it is down to lifestyle choices, and everything that you see here affects the levels of nutrients that are bioavailable to our body, so that our body absorbs. Smoking and alcohol we use as crutches to help us relax, and with alcohol even to help us sleep, but in reality it has the opposite effect. It helps us drift off, but sleep is very light and fitful, and often we wake up a lot earlier than normal after we've had a few drinks. And stress plays a big part too. We can't always control it, but what we can do is help our reaction to it, the external stresses that we all experience every day. And internally, what we're putting into our body causes stresses that we don't see. So the rising and falling of hormones, for example, that happen when perhaps we drink too much alcohol or we drink too much caffeine. Medications that we take, and in particular antibiotics and painkillers. Antibiotics are great at killing infections, but they also kill off the good stuff as well. And then also how much we move. So, even just 30 minutes of something every day can really just help. And some of the toxicity that's just around us in the atmosphere that, is almost unavoidable. So it's not just our lifestyle choices that are making those difference. There are things in our everyday life that are unavoidable. And all of these can have a direct effect on our health and well-being as well. The stuff that we put on our skin, our household cleaners, our tap water, food, fertilizers, all of the things that you see here can really affect the way that we feel. And of course, our nutritional choices. Food these days is designed for taste and not health, and it tastes amazing, but so can healthy food. But highly processed food is high in sugar and salt and fat. And also the cold storage of produce. And something that amazed me when I started all of this was, if you just take an apple that we eat probably every day, can perhaps have been in cold storage for sometimes up to a year. As soon as it's picked off the tree, the nutrients start to deteriorate. So it's sat in cold storage for a year, and we eat it. We're really not getting as much from it as perhaps we could. And the force growing out of season, so we don't eat seasonally anymore. So the nutrient levels are different, and this creates a nutrition gap for everybody. Even if we eat a healthy diet, it's difficult now to obtain the adequate levels of nutrients. And this is all really leading to a global health crisis. So increased levels of everything that you see here: obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease. These conditions are on the rise, and they are linked to the lifestyle that we're talking about on the previous slides. So I just think, gosh, ask yourself, how would it feel to have boundless daily energy, to have clear, healthy skin and strong nails, sleep deeply, to sort out those hormone imbalances, symptoms of menopause, for example, to enjoy mental clarity. I referred to adding 2 and 2 together, but some days it was really a struggle. And to be rid of some perhaps digestive issues, bloating, IBS, joint pain, and to manage the weight easily. And really our bodies are amazing. So you can feel all of these things with the right nutritional support. Now, the key to all this is our microbiome, and there's a lot of noise and chatter at the moment about our microbiome. It's linked to all of the major systems in our body, our digestive system, cardiovascular, nervous. You're aware of that, the gut feeling or an intuition. That's our gut-brain connection. So there are connections to every system in our body, and it's really the foundation to better health. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the science behind it. I'm not going to go delving too deeply, but again, really another fascinating fact is that actually we're only 10% human. The cells in our body, only 10% of us is human. The rest are bacteria, fungi, etc., that live in and on us. And it's massively important to balance our microbiome, because it's that live bacteria in our intestine. And we need about an 80-20 balance between good and bad bacteria, obviously 80% being the good. And when it's balanced, it can really assist with things such as the creation of serotonin, which is a key hormone stabilizing our mood, helps in the creation of B vitamins, which are really important to our energy levels, as well as many other things. So we talk about fix the gut, fix the problem. When our microbiome isn't functioning properly, the gut wall that we have doesn't prevent these toxins that we talked about in the earlier slides, the toxicity, the lifestyle, what's going on in the atmosphere, and what we put in our body. It doesn't prevent it traveling to all areas of the body. We perhaps have tiny holes in our gut wall. And the responses to these toxins is to set up an autoimmune response, which tries to fix the gut wall, but that causes inflammation. And then that in turn disrupts our general metabolism, and it means that we're not really breaking down glucose efficiently. And doing that will lead to insulin resistance. What this does is it deposits more fat in our body, particularly around the middle, and a sort of metabolic dysfunction, if you like, which can lead to an increased risk of heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and a lot of those conditions that we talked about on the previous slide. And all of this is going to result in, tiredness. And we talked about my sleeping for, I don't know, sometimes up to 13 hours a day. And it wasn't great quality sleep. So it leads to poor sleep and chronic fatigue. Sleep is super healing if we get the right quality and the right quantity. It's a miracle worker. Hormone imbalances, headaches, the inflammation that we talked about with regards to joint pain and weakened immunity, leading to some of those autoimmune conditions, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. Excuse me. There we go. So in total opposition to wouldn't it be great, we can end up feeling like this instead. But actually, there's good news is that there's an awful lot that we can do to support our microbiome. We can first and foremost clean up our diet, decrease the amount of processed food that we eat, alcohol and refined sugar, and increase fresh fruits and vegetables and fermented foods, particularly green leafy vegetables. Kefir, kimchi and tempeh are examples of fermented foods. Also, you can increase your fibre. This helps the travel of waste through your gut, and the recommended is 40 grams a day, which is quite difficult to get hold of. You can get it from nuts, seeds, whole grain food, peas, beans and pulses, and of course you can also take pre and probiotics. The probiotics populate the gut bacteria and the prebiotics feed the probiotics, and then you end up with that 80-20 balance that we talked about before. So this is exactly what I did. I did follow a program, and for 21 days I eliminated caffeine, refined sugar, alcohol and processed foods. I drank lots of water, but in particular, just a glass of warm water with lemon juice every morning. It kickstarts your digestive system and really supports your liver. I'm lucky, I have a dog. You might have heard her barking a couple of minutes ago, and she might join in again shortly. But I get out and walk for 30 minutes in the fresh air every day, or whatever your usual exercise routine is. And then I used the clinically designed Purify kit, and my colleague Sue and I are going to go on and talk a little bit about that shortly. For me, it was fully supported. There's one-on-one consultation, you get a health assessment, there's plenty of support from Facebook and WhatsApp groups, educational videos, meal plan suggestions, a recipe book. I still use that recipe book to these days because it's really delicious things in there. So yeah, it really can be done in 21 days, and the results are, you know, you'll repair your gut wall, it moves waste through your intestines more efficiently, gets your liver working to capacity. Your liver's responsible for over 500 different functions in your body, so it's really important. Everything in your body is important, but this one always amazes me because it's responsible for so many things. Helps expel toxins that are causing you perhaps to hold on to excess weight, improving your sleep, rebalancing your stomach acid. And again, you know, I go back to, it's miraculous to me that I'm no longer on omeprazole. I took it for, I don't know, a decade or so, and don't anymore. Mental clarity, increased energy levels. I mean, this list just goes on and on. Eliminates the sugar cravings, and achieves a little bit more effective and longer lasting weight loss. So what I'm going to do now is my colleague Sue, she introduced me to this amazing program that just healed me and made me feel incredible. We're just going to run through a couple of questions that perhaps you might have thought of during the session this evening, and then we'll open it up, and if there are any other questions that you might have, then between us we're more than happy to answer them for you. So Sue, are you unmuted?
I am here.
You are, lovely. So can you just explain to us what exactly happens when we follow the Pure 21 Purify program, and what that does for us?
Yeah, so over the course of many, many years, all the things you talked about, exposure to toxicity, not great quality food necessarily, and even when we're eating really good quality food, stresses and strains of daily life can cause us not to either absorb those nutrients efficiently or to use them up really quickly. And so what happens over that period of years is that gradually there is a decline in our overall well-being. Now, sometimes that can go right the way back to childhood. If you've been someone who had lots of antibiotics as a child because you had ear infections and tonsillitis, if you were C-section birth, the gut bacteria doesn't form effectively in the early days of life. If you're someone that's always struggled with IBS or any other illnesses, operations where you've been in and out of hospital and taking antibiotics on a regular basis, all of those can have a real impact on how the microbiome functions. And what we do with the 21-day program is to basically, it's a clinically trial program that is all food-based nutrients, but all in the form of a supplement. So they're much more targeted and they're much more concentrated. So you couldn't ever eat the amount of nutrients that are in that Purify program simply because there's so many of them in there. To eat the same amount would be really quite difficult. You'd be eating a lot during the course of the day. And so what happens with that program is that those nutrients are so targeted, they basically give the body what it needs to be able to heal itself. And the body is a very sophisticated machine. Given the right nutrients, it can do that. It can heal itself. And so in that 21 days, by doing that kind of concentrated dose of nutrients with really high quality nutrients that come from food source that are super available to the body can really use them. What we can achieve in that 21 days is really quite phenomenal in terms of how well the body can heal itself and how well the microbiome, the gut bacteria, can heal itself as well.
Isn't it, yeah, isn't it something like 2 kilograms of spinach or something, which nobody can ever eat in one sitting?
Well, to get the same amount of nutrients that we in spinach, for example, that we need for the body to heal, we would have got that from a bowl of spinach back in the 1960s, but you now need to eat 24 bowls of spinach to
Oof.
get the same amount of nutrients, because of the way foods are now farmed and, like you said, kept in cold storage. And so that has an impact on, as soon as you pick something, its nutrient content starts to deplete. But if it's been grown out of season and been kept in cold storage for a long period of time, that nutritional value to that food is no longer there. And so your body, whilst it needs more nutrients because it's under more stress, actually it's not getting it from the food that we're consuming on a daily basis.
Fantastic.
So even when you're eating a really healthy diet,
Mm.
you might go, well, I eat a really healthy diet, so why isn't my gut microbiome where it should be? Oftentimes it's because that just gradual degradation over many years has led it to just drop off the curve. It's not because you're doing anything wrong right here and now.
Brilliant. And I guess that's then why the supplements are so important to this program.
It really is. I mean, when I first became involved with this program, I was interested in it because I'd spent 18 months, nearly 18 months to 2 years, healing my own intestine. I'd had a period of time where I'd had to have a lot of antibiotics, and fast forward 4 years, and I was struggling with, at the time I was a personal trainer, and I was really struggling to walk the talk with my clients because I was exhausted all the time. Like you, I was having to take a sleep in the afternoon, and my intestine was all over the place, and food would just pass straight through me and all sorts of things. So I went to see my own nutritional therapist, and she said, you need to sort your gut out. Those antibiotics that you had 4 years ago have kind of made a mockery, if you like, of your balance of your gut bacteria, and therefore you're not absorbing nutrients properly, but equally as much things are not passing through the way they should be, and your microbiome's not working properly. And so I went on a process of healing my intestine. I didn't have the supplementation program that we've got available to us now, and it took me 18 months of really quite a lot of restriction. Couldn't touch sugar. I was really focused on taking probiotic. I didn't drink, etc. And it took me a long period of time to get my intestine back to where I needed it to be for good health. And we can now do that. Not everyone can do it in the 21 days. It depends on your starting point, but we can certainly take you on, to make some big steps in that 21 days that I couldn't do 10 years ago when I started to heal my own intestine, because that program simply wasn't there and available to me.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I know if I had the choice, 3 weeks versus a year and a half.
Yeah. I mean, it was hard going. A year and a half. It was hard going to stay so focused and so restricted for that time.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think something that we've talked about is the elimination of caffeine and alcohol. And I know a lot of people are really horrified. In fact, even sugar, when you think, gosh, have to give that up for 21 days.
Yeah.
How quickly would you say you then stop becoming dependent on those crutches, or why are we dependent on them in the first place, and how quickly does it change?
Yeah, so everything comes down at the end of the day to our blood sugar balance. Our blood sugar balance is super crucial. So if our blood sugars are really unbalanced, that has a huge impact on the stress that our body experiences, and that stress then feeds that inflammation that you talked about earlier. So really trying to cut out the sugar and the alcohol allows blood sugars to come much better into balance. And if we can get our blood sugars under control, that's when the body can really start to heal itself. And so it feels hard to cut out the alcohol and the sugar. On this side of it, you go, oh, I don't think I could do that. And I had a client once who said, there's no way I can cut out alcohol. There's just no way I can do it. And I said, well, if you want to get the result you're looking for, if you want to improve the quality of your life, it's just 21 days. So she agreed to cut out the alcohol for the 21 days. And at the end of it, she was saying, I'm never going back to alcohol again. I realized just what an impact it was having on me on a day-to-day basis. And the same with caffeine. We use caffeine as a crutch. We used it as something to give us that energy boost. But actually, long term, it's depressing our energy. It's reducing our energy levels. And what we really need to be doing is finding those things that allow us to boost our energy levels rather than depleting them, but artificially lifting them, if you see what I mean.
Yes, so horrifying at the start, but you make peace with it as you go through. Certainly. I know when I started, I kind of thought, oh, it's only 3 weeks and I can have a piece of cake and a glass of wine. And actually come to the end of it, I didn't want those things anymore because I was feeling so great. So really interesting. And then just finally for you, Who is Pure 21 suitable for? I think, you know, we'll have a range of people. It's interesting to talk about that.
It's actually suitable for anyone, basically. So most of us have had some antibiotics at some point in our life. There was a period of time when, you know, doctors used to prescribe antibiotics like sweets, basically. So most of us have had antibiotics, and if you go onto the British Medical Journal, they will, you know, there's lots of research there to show you that antibiotics can have an impact on the balance of the gut microbiome up to 10 years after we've taken them. And even then, even that balance then just becomes a very flat range. We should have a real varied range of gut bacteria in order to communicate, because it communicates with the immune system, it communicates with our hormone balance. Women who struggle with menopause symptoms, severe menopause symptoms, often you can trace that back to lots of antibiotics as a child. People who struggle with really poor sleep, melatonin, serotonin is produced in the intestine. So, you know, repopulating the gut bacteria can help to improve sleep. It can help to improve sports performance and exercise performance, because it improves the communication of the muscle fibers and the way the muscle functions, but then also how the muscle recovers. So the gut bacteria is having an impact on how well we perform in sports performance, for example. It can clear brain fog, it can improve daily productivity. There's so many things that the gut bacteria, all disease begins in the gut. That's a 2,500-year-old saying, and it absolutely is true. So our gut and our gut microbiome is the foundation to our health. And without having that foundation absolutely rock solid, we're trying to build a house on sand, basically. It's always going to be, you know, fluctuating. So by getting your gut in you know, working effectively, you're going to have a huge impact on your long-term well-being, your quality of life, you know, how well you function on a day-to-day basis, really, basically. So it's suitable for anyone. Obviously, if you're on lots of medications, we would need to have a conversation with you to make sure that there are no contraindications. But in the main, there aren't many contraindications. It's all food, just in the nutrient format, basically, in the supplement format.
Fantastic. No, it's fascinating just to hear more about the background of everything. So thank you.
So Trudy, you're just you're just in the middle of doing Pure 21 again, aren't you? So you did it in April, May time of last year, and you're doing it again. Tell us the reason why you're doing it again, in terms of what did you feel you needed to do it again for?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, you sort of all heard my story, and even though it's me, every time I read it, I go back to a year ago and think, I can't believe I felt so grotty. I don't feel that grotty again. But what I do notice is, of course, as we've talked about a number of times, abstaining from a lot of the things that we're asking people to abstain from and keeping up that high level of nutrients just isn't sustainable over a long period of time. So I began to sort of notice that my sleep patterns had started to be a little bit disrupted. My energy levels were dipping, you know, the odd afternoon nap was creeping back in. I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight. My weight loss had plateaued. And so, having gone through the process before and also helping other people now go through that process, I just recognized that, you know, every now and again, probably twice a year, every 9 months or so, it's just really important to reset the microbiome, just to get back to that amazing way that I felt. And in fact, this time, I really noticed noticeable results, particularly in my sleep after 9 days or so. And it, you know, yeah, I just wanted to feel amazing again.
I think it's really important as well, because we're exposed to toxins on a day-to-day basis, that toxicity, like I said, it gradually builds up over a period of time. And the first time you do it, it's a kind of quite high level of toxicity in your system that's having a real impact on your body. But the next time you do it, it's just clearing a little bit more and a little bit more. But then gradually those toxins build up, and you can't do anything about that. So it's just about keeping your liver working properly and your intestine working properly, so that those toxins don't stay in the system. And there's lots of research to show that those toxins are stored in our fat cells. So, you know, if you're struggling with stubborn weight, like you said, your weight had plateaued, then by clearing those toxins out of your fat cells, it gives you a better opportunity to burn that weight effectively, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So thank you. So I'd like to, I think there's one question in the chat box. I don't know if Sue's got access to it. It looked like it was, or perhaps if anyone has a question they'd like to ask, they can either perhaps pop it in the chat box or unmute yourself and ask the question.
There aren't any questions in the chat box, just so you know.
That's all right. It just looked like there was one from where I was sitting.
Maybe it would be a good idea if you were to then send everybody a recording of the webinar, and then if they've got questions, they can come back to you personally on email, because often we don't want to ask questions in a sort of
absolutely not. I think some of these things are very personal. So we're just at the end. As Sue said, I
just
will
one
send...
question. Oh, sorry.
Of course.
How much is it?
So I'm just going to refer to my, sorry, I'm just got to get rid of my cat. I thought the dog would be disruptive, and it's actually the cat. So yes, I'm just going to flip to the next slide here. So really, as to thank everybody for coming this evening, I'm offering a 25% discount off the Pure 21 programme. It's normally £275. So for anybody that's attended the webinar this evening, it's £250. That includes your full 21-day supplement regime, and in actual fact some of those supplements go on for a bit longer, so they just you sort of keep building them up in your system. It includes the manual that we talked about with the recipe program and the meal plan, full one-on-one support from myself, and then also a Facebook group, a WhatsApp group if I'm taking more than one customer through it at a time. And also for the first 5 people, and I think you've probably all got my email address because I emailed the Zoom link out to you, so if you wanted to email me back, I do a lifestyle analysis as well, and what that talks about and helps us identify is just areas where perhaps your body might need a little bit more support. So that's also comes part of the package to the first 5 people who contact me. So yeah, thank you so much for spending the time with me this evening. I think we almost did it in half an hour, so that's quite incredible. Please email me with any questions, give me a call if you'd like a personal chat about what we're offering and how I can help you, and I look forward to hearing from you. We'll send the recording out, and thank you.
Thanks everybody. Have a nice rest of the evening. Take care.
Thank you, Trudy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Nice to see you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.